Good morning. I woke up at 5 a.m. with like messages coming through, and it was one specific message that I'm gonna share because it was coming through from a couple women. I have like some spirit guides that it's almost like a salon, like it'll be the wee hours of the morning and I can just enter a space where I'm listening to their conversations. It's some women who speak in accents. There's an Irish woman and a Scottish woman. It's like they all know each other in the higher dimensions. I believe that they're ancestors of mine, like in my spirit team, but they also have like star family lineage or like understandings of the greater energy networks or energy matrices of soul families that have incarnated in other realms or on other planets as well, in addition to the lineage of Earth. So anyway, I was listening to them speak this morning, which I haven't for a few months, and the message that I was hearing, there were some personal messages for me about listening to them more. In particular, it was the Irish woman. And when it's interesting. It's like they knew I was waking up consciously. It's like they were with me, but they understood that I was waking up in the morning and I was starting to listen to them. And I could hear them like talking about me receiving their guidance. And the Irish one was saying like, only if you choose to listen to us, dear. I can't really do an Irish accent, but it was something like that. Only if she chooses to listen. Is that Scottish? Only if she chooses to listen to us. So I have a very long day of being business casual ahead of me. I know I'm like a little bit different than usual, but anyway, I'm sharing this because I think that the wee hours of the morning is not only for me, but for other people, a time of like really clear transparency with clairaudience and hearing messages from guides. So they were extra talkative this morning. And the other message that I got through them that is for the collective was about the fact that there's this irony going on, this tango, this stalemate going on right now that has to do with, it calls upon a need to detach from how other people are going to receive you, about how you're doing something or saying something. I mean, for me, it could be like how I'm doing these videos, thinking less on how they're going to be received and more on why I would be doing them. But there was this like catch-22 within it, which is that it is actually, when you think about, you may think that it's more altruistic to think about how it can benefit other people, whatever it is, to think about them and how they're going to receive it and what it means for them or what it means for you to make something or do something or put something out or like act in a certain way. But it's more ego-driven to think about that, even though you think you're thinking about them and what's best for them, because it still has to do with wanting to control how you are being perceived by others, and that's about the ego. So to think about why you're doing things, so this is why it's a catch-22. You have to redirect to the self, to your message, to your focus, to your stuff, without considering others, which seems selfish. But that is how we're going to free ourselves from some sort of ego-based limitation that we're dealing with right now. Hopefully that makes sense, because it was a pretty clear message, but I was like, that is ironic, huh? And I'm just going to get 3 cards from the John Holland Psychic Tarot. My other cards are still in my bag from being out of town. Okay. When I said it's like a salon with these women who get together to chat, it's like old ladies gossip. I didn't mean salon like beauty salon. I meant like salon, like the academy, like hanging out, talking about arts and culture. Like, I don't know, what's a women's version of a cigar lounge? Anywhere women gather. The laundromat. Okay, all right. Cut this stack up. The waiting game. Victory and success. This card has come out so much in my last few uses of this deck. That's the third one. Movement, choices, and decisions. Oh no, it kind of feels again like I'm showing how bad I am at shuffling, but look, we've got 2, 2. And this is 6. Altogether, that's 8. Okay, I want to get one more. Shadow. Ooh, I love this. An 18. This card is super exciting because anytime we have... Oh, and I believe this is the moon in the major arcana from the traditional 18. Yeah, I believe so, because the star is 17. I think the moon is 18 and the sun would be 19, which is the light card from this deck. The reason why this is such an exciting card is because once you're ready to like meet and work with the shadow self, or the things that I was talking about in my reading from the other day in the past 2 days that pertain to self-imposed binds or limitations, when we're ready to finally acknowledge that we are the ones holding ourselves back, can we really move forward towards victory and success? So what I'm getting off of this is that there's a waiting game involved that has to do with the energies that have been present around Wheel of Fortune, divine timing, something we're creating, as above, so below, the things that we can control and the things that we can't. Recognizing what we have choices to walk through, which thresholds we can cross, like of our own volition right now, and what we have the interest in pursuing. And again, I'm getting this visual that I used probably a few weeks ago around like there could be 2 parallel lines that are only a couple degrees of separation away from being eventually in very different places as they move towards their respective destinations across space and time. So that calls us into consider and think about right now the subtleties of how we're moving and understanding that there are bigger consequences to all of the little movements that we're doing, but that like there's an incredible amount of like nobility in facing, looking, not going, it actually has to do with that collective message that I just finished communicating, not going anywhere else, but taking the time to go within and look at yourself. Because you see, it's almost like the nobility. It's like I'm seeing also the way the queen or somebody would like knight somebody with the 2 shoulders situation with the sword. It's like he's doing this to his shadow self. And this speaks of integration, which also speaks to integrative healing. So there's like this holistic thing happening around, and this plays into the message that I recorded yesterday around this smoother and sleeker ability, more easily called upon within ourselves to navigate the different ways of being, like resting, applying oneself, being in a social space or a private place is what I called it yesterday. That has to do with like the as above, so below, these rings of time that he's walking like a track, a race track, having different options within that. I'm going to get some of these tarot cards here just real quick to clarify. And I guess I'll read from the moon card, or what's called the shadow card. Yeah, okay. It's telling me to do that first. This card represents emotion, sensitivity, and a reminder that nothing in life is at a standstill. This is a world of constant flux, and one thing is certain: everything changes. This card is calling you to action. The time is now when you may have to face your worst fears and look into the dark shadows of your soul. You must learn to confront what you've avoided and walk courageously through it. Always know that life naturally revitalizes itself, and as it does, so do you. The shadow card promises that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Recognize that by no longer denying your past and letting the tears fall, you'll discover the diamonds in the treasure chest of your soul. This is a cleansing process to wash away and clear out what was once avoided, ignored, or pushed aside. This card indicates that this is a time when your psychic sensitivity may be quite intense. Learn to open up to it if need be, or to turn it down. Your body is one big psychic antenna, so just remember that you're in control of how high or low you want the reception to be. Mother Earth can assist you in this period of change, sensitivity, and healing. Yeah, that's very true, and that's important to acknowledge, that it can be like overwhelming to be inundated with new sensations pertaining to increased ability to hold energy. It's like the dial keeps increasing, and there's like these new levels of needing to recalibrate and readjust to that. And that's why people talk about ascension symptoms and things being so exhausting constantly. It's also why people can criticize the like spiritual awakening path and say like it's a scam. You'll always be exhausted. There's nothing there for you. It's a you know, a runaround where people take your money, and it's yeah. There is a problem when somebody's on some type of spiritual path that only leaves them feeling like they're trying and not getting anything out of it. You know what I mean? It's a very different approach that gives like legs to that criticism, because that's the wrong way to go about it. You have to always be happy with where you are and find a way to be grateful and celebrate the victories and successes while you're on a journey of expanding. So not being dissatisfied with where you are, which is what a lot of people fall into, regardless of how, you know, spiritual they may consider themselves. So anyway, I do really like that it seems like with what I was talking about for the past couple of days around like a new latitude of a new frequency level around like what's possible for us is coming in, and it's available to us. But if we don't necessarily rise to meet it by like just staying alert, making discerning choices that are heart-led, like as we continue to maneuver that, it will become available to us. It's almost like a rite of passage to have to look your shadow self in the eyes to be able to cross that boundary in some ways into like a more stable place. So let's see what the tarot has to say about that. I'm looking for 3 cards. Current energy, energy to embrace, and energy to release. Current energy, please. Current energy. There she goes. 7 of Swords. Energy to embrace. Please. Energy to embrace. 4 of Pentacles. The Hierophant and 10 of Wands. Wow. Energy to release. Energy to release. Energy to release, please. Okay. 6 of Chalices. Now I'm going to get a clarifier for the current energy. Okay. I like doing morning readings. You know, what's cool is that as I move into the fall, I get better at sleeping. I'm much better at getting restful nights of sleep in the fall, therefore getting up earlier, therefore being more active. Because when you get up earlier, you tend to have more time in the day in general. So I have enough time to like be active and do different things. Anyway, I'm just excited for the changing energy as we move into fall because of how I'd like to make certain changes for me. It all bodes well. What did I do with the... Okay, current energy, 7 of Swords and King of Pentacles. So I'm seeing this as some reluctance with what I talked about around like the shadow self and this moon card, 18, you know, it's like a final stop or rite of passage, as I just called it, before we can level up in a new way. Having this dark meeting, like in a parking garage, right? They arranged to have this. But it's kind of this inevitable stop along a journey of trying to sort through things in a more honest way than you have before, because these things are not limited to the way the world is 3D or the way it presents. It has much more to do with like how deep everything runs. So regardless of how things present in the 3D physical reality, it all runs deeper. Those things have reasons and roots and energetic tendrils that have even allowed them to remain in your reality in a 3D physical way. And those tendrils have connections to things that are emotionally rooted and also potentially connected to other people. This also, I'm getting a message around energetic cord cutting, which is something that you can do very literally physically, but it is an energetic process around people we've had exchanges with throughout the course of time. You can very simply ask Archangel Michael to use his sword to cut away any energetic ties that are toxic, low vibrational, or do not serve you anymore, and remove them from your life, enabling you to call back all of your energy to you so that you are not being siphoned off of, taken advantage of, or accessed energetically without your consent. That was a pretty good way of putting it too. So if you need to like rewind and just like repeat that the way that I just said it, that can be very beneficial, because sometimes we find ourselves in these energetic points of contention, and it actually has less to do with you, but your energy not being called back to you fully because of certain lingering energetic connections to people, but particularly with people that you have ever been physically intimate with, because that is a like energetic exchange, and you always create energetic cords really with people that you do that with. So I'm seeing like a reluctance or a resistance. Again, this card can represent thievery, theft or deception, like stealing away. And the way that I've experienced this energy as showing up in the current energetic cycle has been around cutting out parts of our narrative or the things that we don't want to necessarily acknowledge or avoid. So that's not exactly how it's depicted here. How it's depicted here is that there's this like strange guy with a mask. He reminds me of one of the people. There's a TV show called Heist. It's about like a large scale bank robbery operation, and they have masks. Kind of reminds me of that. And what I get off of this is like the typical depiction of the Seven of Swords character. He's got his swords and he's like stealing away, and he like doesn't want to deal with the truth of things, and he's trying to manipulate the energies for his own benefit, blah, blah, blah. It's almost like it's almost like that guy is the guy that I talked about in a story from the other day when I was camping in Hawaii, and I met a man who had gotten lost in the forest and ended up living out there for a few years and was a little loopy. It's almost like our classic Seven of Swords guy has gotten himself into that situation in some nocturnal forest, and he hasn't seen the light of day or another soul for 14 years. And he's still kind of doing that, because when you pick a path and choose to edit out parts of your narrative, you commit yourself to a lower vibrational reality that doesn't acknowledge all of the energy that was present for something, because you don't want to have the eyes to see. And that takes me back to the message I heard this morning. I want to try again because it was the sweetest. I also believe, to be honest, that somebody else that these are guides. I don't know. Just for you. Okay. The women I listen to are just for me, but maybe somebody else. The reason why I'm sharing this and that it's a collective message is because other people may be having or start to have or can have experiences of real psychic clarity in the early hours of the morning. Another reason why I'm excited for fall is just being able to have those early morning clairaudient moments. But it brings me back to the woman in my dream, we'll say, just being like, only if you choose to listen to us, around, picking your path, receiving guidance and whatnot. So, yeah, when I talk about this being like a final stop, like, don't be afraid to do this. And I shared this when I was sitting by the lake the other day. Sometimes things are hard to do. It doesn't mean that they don't need to be done. It doesn't mean they're not worth doing. You don't want to, because like this is the alternative. You might end up in the woods doing this silly behavior. Like it's like he's in a completely different realm because the time turner of this world, right? This has to do, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be dramatic, but there's a battle. I don't want to be dramatic, but there's a battle on Earth right now. This is why people say that World War III is energetic and spiritual. There's a battle on Earth for humans' souls. It's not funny. It's very serious. You don't want to be led astray by the delusions and the entrapments of this 3D world right now, because you're picking a path. Whether you like it or not, you're always picking a path. And there's a lot of like false channels right now that are like asking to filter us down, to isolate us entirely and edit out parts of the narrative and end up someplace through, a series of micro decisions, a series of never-ending wrong doors, being selected. And one could argue there's no such thing as a wrong choice. It's my free will. Yeah, totally. But your free will is under attack. Your key of discernment is under attack. And I've said that a lot recently. But this isn't just like, are you going to have a good relationship? Are you going to have the career of your dreams? This isn't, your horoscope. These are big life, like, it has to do with eternity, really. Again, with like I don't like anything around like fear-mongering type of energy for any type of incentive. That doesn't work for me. I like positive reinforcement. So it's more so that there's just so much abundance and love and high frequency, like unconditional love. Unconditional love is available to us and through us, and a lot of people experience it as the love of Jesus Christ and the relationship that they can have with Jesus and being saved by that energy. But it is also available to you through the way that you can be held and seen by spirit guides and ancestors and angels. Okay, so the other energy with the Seven of Swords, I drew a clarifier and I got the King of Pentacles. It's a very interesting card because he's got this yak. He's doing a whole gymnast routine with these strawberries. Very unusual imagery. What I'm going to point out here, because then my next three cards for the energy to embrace position, we have the Hierophant. And do you see it's a constellation, so it's almost suggested, but it's giving like the Baphomet, which is associated with the Devil card, but this is not that. This is the Hierophant. And so when we look at these two together, there's an inversion. You see these horns are right side up. I'm sorry, these ones are, wait a minute. Both of the horns are going the same way. Okay, let my brain process the message for a sec. Yeah, okay, so there's a stability that we need to embrace, and this has everything to do with the message that I shared earlier around, we think that being a good version of ourselves that's heart-led has to do with thinking about how it's going to impact the people around us, but that's working from the outside in instead of working from the inside out. We are in the age of Aquarius, which has to do with having information come from the inside and having the internal compass speak louder than the external indicators. So what I'm seeing is that while these yak horns and while these cattle horns are going up both the right way, his arms are mimicking these horns, and it's like he's inverting himself into, this is a constellation, right? So this is a real animal and a real man. But this is the stars, the guidance system, the again with the as above, so below. And you see like the above and below. There's a relationship with all of the imagery here that is communicating a message around the need to go within. And as you go within, you're actually also going outside of yourself, but not to the other people, not to the other stuff that's physical. King of Pentacles being Pentacles' physical domain of life. You're going within, and that's what connects you to the stars, to the ancestors, the guidance, the spiritual side of life, right? The portal to the stars or God or knowing life, and therefore an ability to know others, is knowing yourself through your shadow. So I said when this came out, like, I'm excited to see this because that's like, it's a sacred passage, right? It's like, in these cards too, I like that I don't even have my other deck and that I'm using these because it has this nocturnal quality. The whole deck does. The whole deck does, because it's the moon, it's the shadow. It's the things that happen, you know, before the light. 18 to 19, the next card is the light in this deck. Kind of just hoped that it would be there. It's not, it's the devil card, right? And I did talk about this looking and resembling the Baphomet. Like, we only get to this point when we're ready to not be ensnared with the entrapments of the physical 3D reality, because we see that those things are forever. Like, those things are constants, they're a part of life. It is you who changes and becomes stronger and more capable of working with energy and navigating like your own ego and your own temptations and vices in this world. Nobody's, I mean, say what you will, but I think it's very hard to be completely perfect, pure, clean. You fix yourself, you become spiritual, it's done. It's not really like that. We are always growing and learning and aspiring to be better. And I'm constantly praying, you know, to have the strength and the willpower to be able to do better. And, you know, in conversation with myself around ways that I can continue to face my own shadow as different, because this is not one and done, by the way. This is something that can happen as a huge closeout of a cycle, or it can happen every day. You can have this little meeting in the parking garage with your shadow self as often as you need to, but it's like this inversion, this inversion of the way that we see things that allows us a higher access to our potential, really. Our potential. You have to, because of the latitude thing, energetically kind of ascending to a different way of being that's higher, more evolved. Okay, so moving off of the Seven of Swords and the King of Pentacles to this Hierophant with the Four of Pentacles and the Ten of Wands as energy to embrace. With the Hierophant, I'm going to get one clarifier off the top of the deck for these. Give me one sec. Four of Pentacles. What is it? The Two of Cups. Okay. Energy to embrace. Okay, well, I'm remembering as I look at this Ten of Wands, even though it's a different card, we did have the Ten of Wands and the King of Pentacles together the other day. And I know the King of Pentacles in this spread is in the current energy and this is in the energy to embrace. But I said the other day the Ten of Wands was not something that I was concerned to see, because I think it's finally, because we're getting to this point of reaching a new plateau that we haven't been able to. And I'm seeing the person who reaches this new plateau being totally out of breath, totally exhausted. This new plateau will in most cases be a place to rest for a certain amount of time before kind of another level of expansion starts to sink in and affect us on a deeper level. So this is a good thing. And you see this little foot, this little ankle disappearing behind that tree. Ten of Wands. There's not really wands here, right? There's a playful energy with flowers, which are indicative of a childlike, you know, whimsical ability to play and dance through the trees. And like, that's her little face there. It's almost like she's escaping the burdens that she's carried for a long time. And so that too, with the with the King of Pentacles going into this inversion, this gymnastic handstand, he's seeing things that's alluding to Hanged Man energy of inverting oneself, seeing things from a different perspective. But there's like a sense of lightness that comes from unburdening the self, which is to be embraced right now. And the Four of Pentacles is sometimes about clinging too tightly or being miserly, but it also is indicative of stability. And he's not necessarily crouching as the woman does in the classical depiction of the Four of Pentacles. He's more so balancing, right? He's trying to understand how he can sit with stability and know that it's there and not, you know, cling to it. It's almost like I'm also seeing him as waiting for a bus. So with this card, the waiting game, how can you both continue to walk the track of life and be on board with a sense of divine timing, or letting the events of your life move you and not being triggered by those, but taking appropriate grounded action that you're motivated to take based off of how you feel from your intuition when things do change around you? How can you do that and stay engaged with that as you kind of remain in this space? Because maybe you're waiting for a bus or something to happen or something to come, but you need to keep living as you take stock of that stability that you've managed to cultivate, that you want more of. Makes me think of the exercise I did with split consciousness with my spirit guides, where I was able to be working through simulations as well as listening to them. So it's almost like we're in, I mean, this is dangerous because no one wants to be in split consciousness or, some sort of bipolar illusion. We don't want that. I just mean as far as being able to be in two places at once. And now I'm getting the time turner from the Prisoner of Azkaban with Harry Potter because of the device that she uses and how it resembles this and everything. But being in two places at once is also what the plot is around that. But still and waiting and stable, but also moving forward in a calculated, calm way. So then the Two of Cups was also out here, and that would give us our third 2 of the reading. So we have 222, which is a beautiful, magical, synchronistic number for soulmates and balance and harmony. And what I'm seeing here, you see how there's this union again with this like nocturnal color spectrum. He meets his shadow self in the parking garage at 2:34 in the morning, and he meets his lady in the lagoon at 6:29 p.m., right? But there's this similar energy around like an intimate confrontation, and it's in the energy to embrace position. But I'm seeing it as, again, with like the moon being a feminine energy. This isn't like, depicted as being, and I love that about this card, because the feminine moon card, it's typically, feminine female energy. It's not here. It has this nobility and this like masculine, like seriousness about the sacred act of confronting one's shadow self, dark side of the moon, right? But it still has this romantic quality about it as well. Or we can see a parallel between those imageries. And then in the energy to release position, we still have lagoon, right? We still have people having the bubbly in the place. But I'll get a clarifier for this in one little minute. I'm seeing that as it has been for the past few weeks with the 6 of chalices, that's what it's called in this deck, energy around activating the flow of abundance by being giving of ourselves. Now we are opening that circuitry within ourself again. So instead of trying to be extending of ourselves to others, which is never something that you stop entirely. I mean, unless, who knows? I don't want to speak on that right now. I don't know why I said that. We've been focusing on like little acts of kindness, or at least I have in my readings. It's been a theme that's been coming out with the 6 of Pentacles energy in the name of partaking and jumping into the flow of abundance like it's a lazy river. And you're like, why don't I have that? I could. I'm standing on the shore. There's an extra inner tube. I'm going to toss it in. I'm going to jump into the inner tube, and it makes a splash, and you realize that everything that was holding you back from partaking in this cyclical flow of giving and receiving was just partaking. And you start by giving of yourself, and then there's a little bit more of a jump start. It's a self, there's a momentum that can carry. It was 3-3-3-3 when I looked up, which reduces down to 6, which reduces down to 3, but also the 3 2s reduces down to 6. So the 2 6s reduced down to 12, which reduces down to 3 again. Anyway, and then we have 6 here with the 6 of chalices. I think ideally, let me get a clarifier, but what I sense has happened is that we have successfully activated a flow of abundance that helps us understand with a little bit more verifiable proof, is what I'm hearing from the universe. So that could be things that we've tried to do differently to be giving of ourselves, or things that we've given away. Maybe we've cleared out the clutter, or things that we've seen success in some form or another. The universe has tipped its hat to us and been like, great work, good job. Or we've gotten some type of immediate karmic payout from doing something a little differently. Or you see some uncanny sign in synchronicity where you're just like, what a weird coincidence. But now you're starting to realize that that's not what you say. When something like that happens, you say, thank you, I understand, universe. I get it. I'm on the right track. Awesome. I'll keep doing it or whatever. Now that it's like jumping a car battery, right? You do it once, you throw the inner tube in the lazy river, you jump in, and then you're in it. The car battery doesn't have to continue to be jumped. It's now running. That's what's happening. Okay. So in the energy to release position, we've already jump started the car. Great work. Now it's going to be running so that we can be like, okay, hang tight. Engine's going to run for a little while. I'm going to go hop in the lagoon and give to myself. And really, that's this spiritual communion with our shadow self, because what that little nighttime encounter is going to do, not to sound weird about it, nighttime encounter, but it's going to set us free to hear that I'm here. It's a quantum. Yeah, that's really beautiful. How do I talk about it though? Yeah. Okay. So as I've talked about with quantum interplay before, the sound of the trumpet is what parts the clouds. It's like doo 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 doo. The sound is what changes the quality of these. Yeah, I mean, it's in the picture, but what I saw was like all these clouds that have been occluding the ability to kind of see and meet and know the dark side of the moon that is a reflection. Our shadow side is a reflection of the shadow side of society in a lot of ways. So it has to do with a lot of integration, which is why it's a complex thing to move through as far as cognitive dissonances that may arise, things we don't want to realize about ourselves, things we don't want to realize about the world and the state of things. It's cloudy, and I'm also seeing it as in the wake of a tower energy falling, a tower falling. And 16 is the tower, right? We had a lot of tower energies coming out for weeks. It's been 2 months that I've been in this series now. It's what, October? That was a weird slip. It's August 22nd today. And when I got to Italy and recorded my first video, it was the 21st of June. So this is, 2 months ago, we were in tower energies. There was smoke because of the rubble, because of these unexpected things collapsing, falling. 16, 17 is the star. Then we saw the star. This is the order of how these cards are presented in the tarot, okay? And I'm saying now we're at 18. We saw the star. We were talking about the wish, the cultivating of a dream, an inner state, something that we could latch onto. It was in the hermit's lamp. It led us forward. Now we're at the moon. And what comes after that is the sun. And the sun has been peeping through the clouds at many different points throughout the journey, as it does. The sun comes up, in fact, every day to remind us of why we live and where we get our fortification from, and that the moon is only a temporary state. Picture book. I read a children's book this weekend. It was a gift for somebody, and I read it, and it says everything changes and that's okay. And it was, it was a kid's book, so it was very redundant, and that was the message. Night to day, everything changes and that's okay, right? So we're realizing that, we're seeing it. What's my clarification for the Six of Chalices in the position to release card? The Nine of Pentacles. Yeah, which speaks to, love it, she's topless. She's standing in the woods. She's got a falcon near her. She's looking out. The dimly lit house on the hill. She has her sense of stability and belonging. It's pre-Empress energy. It's about gratitude. It's about counting blessings. I do think we've had some type of success with activating abundance where it more so has to do with, again, stop looking to the outside world right now. Go inside to the portal of your heart and your third eye, your mind, your crown chakra. It's talking about being overwhelmed by a heightened psychic understanding of ourselves. So if you need to come back to yourself and have some solitude and kind of just like ground and be like, I'm not crazy. I'm just changing. I'm not crazy. I'm just expanding. Whatever you need to remind yourself of, know that like this is energy to release. Six of Cups and Nine of Pentacles. One more clarifier for it. The Page of Chalices. Yeah, all of them are naked, hanging out in nature. So what I'm seeing is that lazy, like, you can trust right now that you've started and done something that, and I'm seeing this as those Thai lanterns that you, like the moonlight ceremony where you light them and you let them float away into the moonlight and you write wishes on them. Same but different. All of this has to do with this dreamy energy of that earlier part of the cycle, creating a wish and setting it free and moving things along and creating a new chapter and breaking out of thick, dense karmic cycles that we've walked with. Like these things, imagine these as those ropes where people do the choo-choo-choo-choo. Like they were weighing him down. Those ropes are real heavy, you know, weighing him down and keeping him stuck. Breaking out of all of that. And there was a few initial phases and steps to how we had to break out of that and what that looked like. And I said that the other day. I said, like, I used a word finally, and I was like, I don't want to imply that we've gotten here late by any means. It just means we had to endure in perfect divine timing the way that certain things went. Because now this meeting isn't going to be, I don't know, some awkward thing where he's like, do you have the stuff? And the other guy's like, I thought you were supposed to bring it. It's just, we're not going to have those kinds of miscommunications because we've been divinely led to this union, this meeting, this understanding of the self on a deeper level. Okay. Thanks for tuning in this morning. And have a great day. Okay, bye.